county parties with extremely low Democratic voter percentages? And what will you do to encourage Democratic voters to volunteer with their county party?
Okay, so first of all, we have to go into rural spaces and work with leaders in those areas to develop a strategic plan for rural Tennessee. We have to put a task force together with people from inside and outside of the party. We have to go into or the VFW places. We have to find where our voters might be, and we have to re-engage with them. I know there are so many people in rural Tennessee that feel left behind by the Democratic Party, and they are not wrong. We have to do better, and we do that by reaching out to people who are already doing the work in rural Tennessee and engaging with them to put a plan together.
And under time, thank you. Brian.
I think that's a great point. I would piggyback off of that to say it has to be a 365 a year effort. This has to be something that we need to be focused on every single day, during session, off session. There's no years off. There's no cycles off. There are no days off. This is something that, whether we're competing in like Alec had said earlier, in spaces like podcasts, in spaces like new media, TikTok, social media, to the places where like Vice Chair Campbell said, at spaghetti dinners, at building the fish fries, at rebuilding some of that connectivity in that community. These are I don't want to say simple, but these are things that if we're intentional about, we can do. We know the method, and frankly, we've seen this playbook play out as John had mentioned earlier. The situation we find ourselves is not something that happened overnight, and the way that we're going to get out of this is not something that's going to happen overnight either. So we need to be intentional and aggressive about it.
All right. Thank you so much. Representative Dixie.
I think that one of the things that I would really like to do is hire a statewide organizer. In ideal, I would love to have enough money where we can have one for East, Middle, and West Tennessee. But the first thing is to hire a statewide organizer, because we assume that people understand what it means to organize, mobilize people. We don't. People say, "Oh, I've knocked on doors before." Well, it's a little bit more than that to get people a little energized to do that. And we're going to have to go out and make sure that we have people that understand how to motivate people, how to go find people to run for office. Because if you don't have someone to run for office in these areas, how do we know what our Democratic number is? We don't. So it's important that we do have people in these rural counties to run for office, so we'll know what we can build on, so we have a foundation and we can move forward. But I think it's very critical that we do hire a statewide organizer just to start.
All right. Thank you. Todd?
Yeah, I agree with all the sentiments that have been expressed. With all due respect to the Vice Chair, putting together a task force sounds like a very Nashville-centric thing, and I think part of the problem is that the party is too Nashville-centric. And as the chair, what I would want to do, and I think whoever wins ought to do this a little bit more, we ought to not focus much on Nashville and should be everywhere from Johnson City to Memphis and all the places in between. You should be a face of the party. You should be the Democrat that the Democrats know. And when I was the county chair at Hamlin, that was not the case. And, I think the way you got to give the rural counties a reason to think that the state party will help them, can help them. And the only way to do that is for the chair to get out there and be there and do it. And I'm, with all due respect, again, I don't think a task force is the way to go.
Thank you so much. Gloria.
All right. Well, I think that it is critical that we do rural organizing, that we are constantly training at the TNDP people as organized, and specifically rural organizing, because it's different. And you have to listen to those rural counties when you're going to be organizing there. City Girl doesn't go in to Hardeman County and tell them how to do. What we can do is train folks from their county to organize within there, take education experts and show them how to organize in education and healthcare and labor, use labor for things like raising the wage and living wage and things like that. But we need to give them the tools they need. Going to all 95 counties over the last year, when there wasn't a county party there, there was a difference. We always had more people when there was a county party. And so we need to be in every county, making sure that they have the tools they need, and we've got to raise the money so that we can give them those tools.
Thank you. Alec.
Yeah, I look at the county party structure, and it's certainly something that we need to invest in. We need to be present in all 95 counties. But I think boiling this issue down to what the county parties are going to do is a bad way to look at it. Our voters don't all attach themselves to the party, nor do they want to. Many of them feel uncomfortable about entering the political realm and don't really have a reason to. The core fundamental issue is the fact that we haven't provided them any type of services that they believe in, whether that's at the state level in government or locally. So we can talk about investments and we can talk about task force or bringing committees together, anything in between. But fundamentally, we have to be in these neighborhoods, not as a politician, not as politicos, but just there as neighbors and asking them what they need, what are they lacking, and where have they felt unheard, whether that's gun safety, education, the expansion of Medicaid, Medicare. These are all issues that they can expound on and they can explain to us why they feel unheard. And once we do that, we can use that as a wraparound 360 approach for an entire year of organizing in those rural counties.
Thank you so much. John?
Man, it is a Herculean task. We have been demonized. We say we warn some of these voters that Trump will rule as totalitarian, and they're fine with it. So that again, it really needs to get back, to the issues. And some of these issues, perhaps we need to move to the center or common sense. I think of crime. I mean, what a great populist idea to rural voters. They see the things on Fox News and they think Democrats are, just let crime go unpunished. Where, we live in the cities, we're affected by crime. We should be leading on crime, not just waiting for the Republicans to broach this. So again, kitchen table issues, but maybe a little more populist. Regarding getting more people involved, let them know it's not intimidating. Maybe they don't have to go door to door. Maybe they can help in other ways. Maybe we have technologically savvy people that can help move our message into the modern world. So again, huge task, but you got to start somewhere.
All right. Speaking of starting somewhere, we're going to start this next question with you, John.
Okay.
Should the Tennessee Democratic Party have a full-time chair? If you hold another job, how will that impact the time that you devote to chairperson duties?
Well, given that I would do it full time, I'll say that mandated. No, it's obviously it is a full-time job, but people certainly are free to conduct their lives or multitask, whatever they need to do. I think with the task that is ahead of us, we do need a full-time chair. This is going to be, especially the next 2 years, we are literally trying to come from so far behind the 8 ball, not seen in my lifetime since McGovern got 37% of the vote. But the good news is within 2 years, Nixon and Agnew resigned. So anything can happen. We're already seeing blowback with this president. But yeah, we need to be focused, have our plan, and I certainly would commit long hours to this.
Thank you so much, Alec.
Yeah, I view the Tennessee Democratic Party chair as a full-time position, and that's regardless of any of us running for it. Being underwater in the state and viewing our political ideology as underwater is currently why you need to view it as a 365 job. Do I view that as something somebody would not be able to do if they decided not to commit to a full-time? I'd be concerned. Whether that's fundraising, organizing, or getting around to every part of the state, I would worry. When I view myself as a potential chair, those commitments need to be met, in every county, whether that's an entire week, 2 weeks at a time, spending in these counties and getting to know the people there on the ground. That's the type of investment we're really looking for. And I think what we need for these people to view us as human beings again, and as just your neighbor and as a regular everyday person. They've seen and heard a lot of Republicans, whether that's on mainstream news, legacy news, or in the new podcasting space. And we have to find ways to fight back there.
All right. Thank you so much. And now to you, Gloria.
Yes, I do view it as a full-time job as well. And even though I have a part-time job as a state rep in Tennessee, I am not opposed to working at least 40 hours a week for the TNDP while I'm in session. I've committed and blocked 20 hours a week for call time as if I get this position as chair of the party, Even during session, I will commit to 20 hours a week doing call time, but 20 plus hours in the other duties as chair as well. I just came off of 14 months of doing 16-hour days. It's something I can do. It's something I've committed to. I really, when I retired from teaching several years back when I was in the legislature, I committed to doing that work full time. Even though you're a part-time legislator, I still make it more than a full-time job in organizing and working with Democrats to make us stronger. So I commit to full-time even while in session, and I commit to full-time fundraising while in session as well, because we can legally fundraise.
Thank you so much. Todd.
Yeah, with all due respect to Representative Johnson, I don't think committing to a 40-hour work week is enough for this job. I think that the party chair is a full-time job, and it is one that is 24/7, 365. That's what I'm committing to do for the next 2 years. I'm a part-time attorney in the job that I have. I'm just going to leave, and my wife is a physician, so I have healthcare benefits. I don't need and am not going to take a salary or benefits, and I'm going to spend the next 2 years traveling across the state, not based in Nashville, but I'm going to live in Pulaski, and I'm going to go wherever I need to go. The modern technology allows us to do things like we're doing right now. So I don't need to be in Nashville. I need to be out in the areas. And so if I were bound to Nashville, I think that's a hindrance for the job. And the chair should be out in the state, and it should be all the time.
Thank you so much. And now up to you, Representative Vincent Dixie.
I think it is a full-time job. I think everything that I have done in my life, I've done full-time, and I've done multiple things at once. I currently own several businesses, but I put people in place that allow me to step away to become a state representative. And while I'm a state representative and being a part of being the TNDP chair, I think they go hand in hand. I don't think there's a line that you draw that you say, okay, well, this is a legislative issue, this is the TNDP issue. I think they bleed into each other. And that's why I think that I am the perfect person for this particular position, because I am on the front lines and we have real-time information, data that we can get out to the public immediately. So when you say 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week, we do this all the time. When you're a legislator, you don't have a time clock. So I think that this is nothing new that I would not be able to do.
Thank you so much. And we're up to Brian, if I got it right. Because I believe, yes. Okay, I'm trying to keep my order together.
I got you. No, I agree. I'll echo a lot of what everybody else has said. I mean, this is absolutely a full-time job. It's something that you have to be firmly committed to, and it is a 365-a-day job. You know, part of the roles and responsibility of the chair is getting out there and being inside of the community. And while I think it's important that we do that, we have to look at who's going to be the person that can have the connective tissue or be able to build the bridges to make sure that we're amplifying the folks who are out there already, the people that are fighting on a day-to-day basis for us, and then finding the folks that are doing the work quietly in the community and uplifting them and putting them in positions to be the next leaders in our state. So, you know, absolutely, this is a full-time job, and I would look at it as such. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. And Rachel.
I co-sign just about everything Executive Director Cordova said. And yes, this is a full-time job, boots on the ground, some weekends, sometimes most of the time, nighttime. I would, counter to what Mr. Frohmeyer said, I don't believe that this should be a Nashville-centric party anymore. We've got to be on the road. We've got to be in all parts of Tennessee. We've got to be talking to everyone. And we can only do that when we're full-time and when we have the opportunity to do that traveling. I live in Chattanooga. I will travel anywhere. The only other job I might have to set aside is micromanaging my husband, but I think he'll be okay with it.
Well, listen, if you figure that out, send me the cliff notes. I'd love to be successful in that area. Thank you so much. All right, and we're going to start back with you. The next question. A few members of the Tennessee Democratic Party Executive Committee have filed suit against the organization seeking to strip ex officio committee members of their right to vote on party business. The organizations represented include the House and Senate Democratic Caucuses, the Tennessee Federation of Democratic Women, the Tennessee Democratic County Chairs Association, the Tennessee Young Democrats, College Democrats, and High School Democrats. Do you support this lawsuit? And what is your opinion on the matter?
No, I don't support the lawsuit. I believe, however, that some of the people that involved themselves in the lawsuit did it because they wanted an answer. They just wanted an answer and maybe thought we were doing something wrong, wanted to make sure we were doing things right. Look, I'm a county chair. I want to make sure that my chair's chair, which is Mr. Wilkins, that he has a seat at the table, even if I don't want to at the executive committee. If we are giving everyone an opportunity to be a part of our party, that's better. I think the ex officios play such an important role. We need to be giving more time and attention and energy to our young constituents and our young voters and our young volunteers. And if we're saying to the high school, college, young Dems, hey, look, go out here and do all this work and volunteer on all these campaigns, but don't come to our meetings and don't think you get to tell us what you think about what we're doing, then we are fundamentally doing it wrong. We have got to give everyone an opportunity to speak. The lawsuit, we'll get an answer on that. It'll be over and then we'll know what to do. But I think it's wrong.
All right. Up next, Brian.
So I can't necessarily go into it in depth as much as I'd like to. I'd say, look, we are a big family inside of this party and we're a big team, and we need to make sure that everybody has a voice at the table and has a seat at this table. And that's the responsibility of the next chair, frankly. We need to make sure that any conversations or any disagreements are happening inside of our conversations and our committees and are worked out together. Now, as to the specifics of this, I think that's something that will be handled externally. But at the end of the day, this is a big tent party and something where we are stronger when we have more voices and more people coming to the table and being a part of the process and being a part of the solutions to the processes too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Representative Dixie.
I think that I do not agree with the lawsuit, but I think that it's an opportunity and we should be able to keep our dirty laundry in-house. And I think this is something that we could have talked about and it could have been settled, not in a public forum, because I think that when you have other members, especially younger members that are part of these organizations, how else are they going to get the transfer of knowledge, the institutional knowledge of how to run meetings, what to do, so that we're not starting from the ground? Because it appears that even in our legislative and elected office races, we tend to start from the ground up. There's no succession planning. And how do we do that without them, without their help? How do we get the young people involved? Because literally they can swing an election if we get them involved and get them motivated. And so I think it's very important that though everyone's voices is heard. We are the big tent party, so we need to act like it.
Todd.
Well, as an attorney, far be it from me to criticize someone for taking advantage of their right to the law, but it kind of feels like a big waste of resources. And I can't help but think that Republicans are laughing amongst themselves, thinking, hey, the Democrats are amongst them, good for us. And so from that perspective, I'm not in support of the lawsuit. But also it brings to mind, I don't even know how it's controversial that the ex officio organizations should get a vote. I mean, we're the party for democracy. It's in the name. So I don't know why anyone that's a Democrat would be trying to stop someone from being able to vote. And like everyone else said, big tent, party of diversity. This is kind of what we stand for. And so the people that brought that lawsuit, I think, are going against the principles and ideals of the Democratic Party. So don't support it.
Thank you so much. Representative Johnson.
Well, I think that it's critical that I think one thing that Rachel alluded to was that idea of getting clarification on what's legal or what is the process of having these folks. But again, I also believe that bringing all the voices in is really critical. I know when I first got involved in the party, what I kept hearing all the time was, we've got to get young people involved. But the other part of that is, yes, we need to solve, as Rep Dixie said, we need to solve these problems in-house. We don't want to bring a lawsuit within the party during an election year. But we can ask for clarification on are we doing this process correctly? Those types of things. So how do we work together to make sure we're bringing everybody in, that we've got a multiracial, multi-generational group of folks working together and utilizing all those skills going forward on our mission?
Thank you so much. Alec.
No, I certainly don't support the lawsuit in any regard. I mean, if we're being the big tent party is certainly helpful, and saying that we're about these actions is another. As we continue to look to mobilize young voters, engage with young voters, and give them a proper space in the party, we don't necessarily need clarity on this action. We're supposed to be, like Todd mentioned, we're the party of democracy. We're supposed to welcome these challenges and these uncomfortable conversations at times when we've displaced people from our party. We have made it so that the working class folks of this state, and young people especially, don't feel like they have any say. And when they do have a say, they're oftentimes shouted down and treated as if they aren't experienced enough to have a place at the table. And frankly, it's not confusing at all why people my age and younger wouldn't want to engage with the party. They aren't valued. They aren't given the voice that they should be. And when offered the opportunity to at least sit at the table, the seat's ripped out from underneath them. So that's the first issue.
Thank you so much. And John.
Yeah, I don't support it. And I don't know how it got to this point. As a few people have said, the optics are going to be terrible, and we don't need to give ammunition to the other side. And, getting back to the Big Tent, and especially when it comes to the younger organizations, if you go onto Instagram and you just try to find, progressive organizations in Tennessee, especially young people that support our causes, and then once you pick one, it gives you the choice of all these others to use. They are innumerable. So, maybe they all can't be, they can't be all part of the committee, but again, we need to welcome this tent. We need these folks because across all these causes, they are doing the work on the ground. So, we need their voice, absolutely, and new perspectives.
Thank you so much. And get a sip of water because we're about to start right back.
I think I ran out, so I'll work with me here.
But everyone has their cups full. I'm trying to get a straw here. I need a drink. I wasn't smart enough. I didn't put it in a cup. I've got my bottle here. I don't want to turn up on the live stream. Let me get a straw here in a second. All right. Our next question, again, starting with you, John. Currently, the TNDP has a combined vetting and grievance committee. Do you support keeping this same structure or plan to propose an alternative? In addition to this structure, what procedures would you recommend that the TNDP adopt to thoroughly vet candidates and handle grievances?
Well, first of all, I think it's great that the apparatus is in place. And, I think it's going to be key for us to really vet candidates. So when we're looking for people to run, I'm hoping we find people that are approaching us, they want to run. We will support them, but they are super proactive about it. So, and regarding vetting them, what are they bringing to the table if they want to run and get our support? Will they articulate our message? What is their status in their community? What is their experience? What is their passion? So, I think, keep the vetting process in place, but maybe enhance it. We also want to make sure that we're just not throwing good money after bad and maybe some unwinnable races. Really just I'd rather have all good, solid candidates than just a few that kind of don't have a chance.
Thank you. Alec.
I believe in separating the vetting and grievance committees. I don't believe that they serve the same purpose, nor do they really align in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. Vetting our candidates and handling the grievances, those things can be communicated to each committee. But I don't want to create a the conditions for interpersonal challenges to be more important than the mission of the party. And I believe vetting and grievances mixed together opens the door for that. There's a lot of people out there in the state who don't necessarily associate with the Democratic Party. So vetting these people is going to be very difficult. It's not necessarily about identifying how they voted in the primary, but getting down to the nitty gritty of where do you fall on these issues and how can we help you understand why that aligns with our message and what we're trying to accomplish in the state. So when you look at things like that, you separate the two, you get much more in-depth data, you get more time spent on the task that needs to be handled. And just in terms of procedures, I don't have enough time for that, but certainly we need a full top-down audit of understanding everything.
Thank you so much.
And why.
Thank you so much. Representative Johnson, you're up.
Okay. Yes, I think that we've got to have that vetting process, and I too, I would have to dig more into the grievance because I need to know more about where they're headed with that. And I think there might be some revamping, but I'm not going to go in and just change things without meeting with those groups, talking to them, having discussions, what works, what doesn't. I mean, if you've been paying attention for the last 10, 15 years, we've had some pretty big state embarrassments when it comes to candidates who were not vetted. And we've got to make sure that those things don't happen again. But I can also say in recent years, we've done a great job with really quality candidates. And so I'll look at what we're doing and talk with the executive committee members, talk to people, see how they feel it's working. And that would be a group decision. If we're going to make changes there, I think we need to make changes with the folks that have been doing it, and I need a deeper understanding.
Thank you. Todd?
Well, I think the issue with the vetting and grievance committee is that maybe if the vetting committee has vetted and approved a candidate, but someone wants to say, hold on, y'all screwed up big time, the grievance goes back to the same people who did the vetting, and are you really going to get a second look that you need? So I would separate those two. But I'm going to, what I'm going to say is vetting committee, very important, because I said before, and I'm probably going to say a couple more times throughout the course of this, we're doing a terrible, awful, horrible job of getting candidates on the ballot at all levels. And so I hope, if I'm so fortunate to be elected chair, that the vetting committee is very, very busy vetting the candidates that I'm able to get recruited to run these offices, because we need a lot of them. And I'm happy to have any good, solid Democrat who's willing to run and put a D after their name.
Representative Dixie?
I think the two should be separated as well. I think they form two different functions. And I think that the vetting committee does a good job of vetting people. And I think the grievances, it has become more of a committee that is policing each other rather than what it was supposed to be. So I think that some of those conversations with the grievances, that we need to sit down, we need to be adults. We have to put our egos and pride aside and talk to each other, and not always handle it with a piece of paper or trying to file something. We have to get back to communicating and realize that we're all playing for the same team and we need to be rowing in the same direction. So we have to put some of our differences aside in order to move the party forward. So I think that they definitely need to be retracted from each other, because they perform two different functions.
Right. Thank you so much. Brian?
Yeah, I mean, so there are a couple parts to this. One, I believe the grievance and vetting used to live inside of county party development, and I'm sure the vice chair can speak to that in more detail. But I think part of this is exactly what Representative Dixie, Representative Johnson, some of the other folks on this call have mentioned. We need to get back to communicating one-on-one and making sure that we're doing this. But vetting is actually something that is required by state law that the party actually has to do, and that is one of the key functions that we have to do. So I think the vetting and the grievance committee does a lot of hard work, just like the rest of our executive committee does, a lot of thankless work that doesn't get sort of appreciated enough. But I think there is an opportunity to take that internal audit, as Alex said, not do vast changes on the fly, like Representative Johnson said, and bring folks back together to say, look, this is how we start approaching this, so that we're not we're fulfilling our responsibilities while at the same time building a better and stronger party. So.
Thank you. John.
Didn't I already answer the vetting question?
Oh,
I think
did
you're
I
in
start?
Rachel.
It's Rachel.
Oh, forgive
Oh.
me. Listen, I'm getting all backwards. Rachel, you are up next. Thank you for your help, everybody. Appreciate it.
No
Rachel.
problem. I do believe that vetting and grievance should be split. Vetting needs to focus on vetting candidates to be Democrats. That means looking at their social media, their voting record, all of those things, because we have to look at what not all Democrats vote a certain way. We have to be sure to vet them correctly. We have to make sure that when we do allow a candidate to run as a Democrat, that they're someone we can be proud of. That all lies in vetting. Grievance needs to be led, I think, by attorneys within the party and without. We need to make sure that the grievance process is fair and free of any sort of, in-party fighting. It really needs to be a place where executive committee members, candidates, and county parties have a place to go that is safe and fair to deal with actual grievances and differences within our parties, so that it is reasonable and not a long-term, they shouldn't be in there for a long time. We really need to separate those two, but they are both very important parts of our organization.
All right. All right, Rachel. We're about to come right back to you.
Great. Okay. Great.
Lady of the day.
I'm ready.
First of all, everyone, I want to acknowledge you have made it halfway through the questions. All right. Unfortunately, we cannot take an intermission. We've got to keep on rolling, but just want to give you a little update. Halfway through, a few more to go. Very important questions. Everyone doing a tremendous job. Again, thank you to everyone who is watching. Hopefully you are getting some much needed information. Let's roll on to our next question. Again, it's starting with you, Rachel. What staff positions do you consider essential to supporting the chair? And do you commit to having a diverse staff?
As for having a diverse staff, absolutely. We absolutely have to have a diversity in our organization, or else we're not going to be representing Tennessee very well if we don't have voices from all parts of our region, all ethnicities, all races involved in our staff. And then as for the staff, executive director, comms director, finance director, data director. Those are the most important positions that we were going to have. We need executive director, data director, comms director, finance director. We'll need to eventually move into trying to fundraise enough money to have regional, statewide organizers, to have people working in different counties, all of those things. But those top 4 positions are the most important, in my opinion. And of course, I commit to diversity.
Thank you so much. Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing, this is near and dear to my heart, because obviously I'm the executive director currently, and I think the world of the staff that the chair has put together, there's been a real desire to focus in on making sure there's diversity and representation across the entire state, and I think the chair has done a great job of doing that right now. Look, realistically speaking, I don't know if anybody on this call can realistically say what fundraising is going to look like over the next 3, 6, 8, 10 months, because that's just the new reality that we face. We're going to have to go in and be aggressive and intentional. And so I think the 2 most important parts of any apparatus that we put together or start putting together would start and stop with fundraising and data, and making sure that we have a product that we can give to candidates and to our county parties and to our organizations that are doing the work, that it's as clean, it is as effective, and is as aggressive as possible. And then for fundraising, we need that professionalized touch to make sure that we're hitting benchmarks, because it would be irresponsible, in my opinion, to hire more than we can commit to actually paying. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Representative Dixie.
Of course, I think we definitely need an executive director. We need a comms director and a data director, not in that particular order. But we also have to have, I think we need to have a statewide organizer. And in addition to that, I think that we have to have to continue the position that what Chaz Uffelman has right now as the Tennessee political director, because he's been a great liaison and helping with candidate recruitment and keeping candidates involved in what we're doing right now. I think that position is very, very important. And I think the other one is, even though they're not staff, but I think it's a very, very important position, which is the vice chair. I think the vice chair has to be activated more, being given a little bit more autonomy to be able to do more, to be my right-hand person, as long with the executive director. We have to work in concert and as a team together. And if we don't do that and we don't have that unity, then it's going to be hard to be successful.
Todd.
Well, I admire all the folks on this call, and I think a lot of the folks here have a lot more experience with this stuff. I've been in the military. I've run and been in command in a lot of governmental and military organizations, and I just don't. I've been at the county level, and I don't know what staff is appropriate. What I know is whatever staff handles data, whatever staff is going to help with candidate recruitment, whatever staff is going to handle with fundraising, those are the staff we need. Kind of seems to me that an executive director is the one that really keeps things together. I think Brian's doing a great job. But I come at this from the outside a little bit, and I want to come in with fresh eyes and not say this is what I got to have until I play and say this is what I got to have.
Thank you. Representative Johnson.
Yes, well, absolutely. What we've got to have a data director. We've got to have a comms director. We need an executive director, and finance committee doesn't necessarily, that can be volunteer, doesn't have to be hired, but a finance director is certainly helpful to make sure we stay on that finance goal, because none of these things are going to happen if we are not raising those funds. And so I am, like I said, I'm committed to do that. And we need to do, I'd love to hire from within Tennessee because there's a lot of talented people in Tennessee. But when it comes to things like data manager, we've got to really look at what's available nationally, because we need somebody to come in and really get us on track, who's experienced in political data. That is what is so critical. And so we can do that. And an off election year is the time to find that person before they get caught up when other states start hiring during an election year. If we can get an advance on that, we get ahead of the game.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alec.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear Representative Johnson mention that we need to work within the state and hire from within. I'm listed as the candidate from Chicago right now because I was essentially unable to secure the work in the state of Tennessee, and funny enough, that ends up with me leading one of the largest supermajorities in the country, and helping be a part of that political operation. And that wasn't just in downtown Chicago, Cook County, that's the super blue gem to many. This was working in the collard counties that are all battleground blue and purple. So there was a lot of work to be done. So when I look at a team and having had the opportunity to look at the Democratic Party of Illinois versus the Senate's group and the House group up here, I look at a communications team being absolutely instrumental, but we also need an operations team that is fully built out, and data falls under that operations. We can't expect our results in the field to not match with what the data is. And frankly, right now, we haven't done a good job at perusing all of that and building out our operations from that ground up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, John.
Hey, obviously, diversity is what this party is all about, and diversity is under assault right now. And going through this, I kind of thought, what's a spot where we haven't really hit? So you talk about the rural areas. We need young people in the rural areas, not just these college or city high school organizations. There are folks out there that want to do the same thing, and maybe they're not encouraged as much to speak their mind, but that is a hidden gem, young people in rural areas. Regarding staffing, I think the current positions, it seems comprehensive. My first day, I would spend time meeting with these people and learning their roles. Really, what does data cover? What does communications cover? What does operations cover? And I mentioned earlier that I'm looking for a highly a team of technology experts to really get our message out consistently.
All right, John, we're coming right back your way. What specific training, finances, or other resources do you commit to providing for county parties as chair?
Well, I think if you have people that are interested in the cause, I probably don't expect to go back and reinvent the wheel. I assume some of these are in place. But I'll say regarding training, I hope it would be beyond just the existing things, the same old road, the knocking on doors, getting out. it's really first of all crafting our message and then broadening that message. You know, just to I lost my place. What was the question again?
Absolutely. What specific training,
Yeah,
finances?
specific training. Sorry. Yeah, I don't want to get off the road with just tried and true methods. I really want everyone to embrace the new paradigm of how we can go out there, share all the great ideas that we've had on this meeting today, and get that to the people.
Alec.
Yeah, if I hadn't said it in the previous question, having a fundraising team is key here, because building out a communications team to help, make this training and the finances and the resources brought down to the county party level, done correctly is going to require some help from them. We need to train people on what it looks like to run a campaign and what it looks like to engage with voters. And that's not just vote builder training. And certainly that's not just sending people to the NDTC. They do a wonderful job over there. And I've been on plenty of those training calls, but we need to have Tennessee focused trainings. And we need to have Tennessee focused trainings for each of these counties that they can tap into. And whether that's just, if you're in Shelby, you're in a Shelby County training, or if we're doing companion county programming where we're having a county that's much stronger in their resources, lock in with somebody who isn't. And that way we can kind of build some more camaraderie across the state. But that's definitely part of it. And certainly I think as the chair, it's our job to bring some money down to these county parties and essentially give them the opportunity to provide resources to those who are running for office and make it easier to entry.
Thank you. Representative Johnson.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was county party chair, one of the things that we did, we organized and put together the TDCCA. I was part of the group that started that group, the TDCCA, and Todd Sharp called me, said, "Hey, we're doing this." We had talked with the party chair, and Betsy from Brownsville's kind of one of the ones that came up with the idea of the TDCCA. So we've got the bones in place. So let's make sure that we're utilizing all of these organizations and giving folks what they need. I've gone around to county parties when I was county party chair or on the TDCCA and helped folks to learn how to use Vote Builder, learn how to utilize their ward and precinct captains to make calls every day on non-election years, election years, train people to do deep canvassing, to bring folks in the rural areas. So there's so many ways we can contribute in training. We've got to have the finances to be able to do that. There are a lot of other ways, but really making sure all our county parties have the tools is something I've been doing for 10 and 15 years.
Thank you. Ty.
Yeah, training, super important. I think Alec mentioned the NDTC, and that there's a link to that on the TNDP.org website, and I think that's good stuff. But as with the other things that I'm proposing, I think we need to make this as much not national centric as much as going out into the counties. So we're not bringing them to us or sending them to a website for something virtual, but in order to really build and reinforce and connect the county party system, the training needs to be part of getting out into the counties. And so as chair, again, this is my vision to go out and do that, but it can't just be me. I really need to rely on the executive committee members, and all the leaders in the Tennessee Democratic Party need to be out there, and we need to be out there in person talking to people, and that's you set up the training through that system.
Thank you so much. Representative Dixie.
Again, I think it all starts with fundraising, and that's why I would like to start off with a paid fundraiser, but eventually bring it into in-house, so that we can be in control of our own finances. But as we move down to the county parties and to our candidates, we have to make our candidates understand that just because someone asks you to run for office or do something, you still have to have skin in the game. You still have to know how to raise money, and you still have to do that. I think a lot of candidates think that once they're asked or they volunteer to run for an office, that there's a check that's going to be given to them. It doesn't work that way. But I think there's some examples of some county parties that are doing it correctly that we can model after. I think Knox, Hamilton, Davidson County, even though I know they're the bigger ones, and they are fundraising. They have a plan for their money, and they know how to supplement and help those down ballot races. And we can just roll that out to other places, and we don't have to recreate the wheel, but we can enhance it.
Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything that's been said so far is great and part of the larger solution. I think, frankly, we see counties across the entire state that are doing really, really well. I mean, Representative Dixie mentioned Knox County, and I mean, Knox County has had a consistent sort of thread of compounding on good chairs after good chairs after good chairs, providing resources and providing trainings. But that's not to say that Hamilton County hasn't done that as well. I think, Marshall County is one of those counties that's showing some great excitement too. Washington County, I saw Sylvain on here earlier, is doing a great job as well. Like, and that's just scratching the surface. I think our biggest asset in this party are our people, which are our county party chairs, our EC members, and the people that are doing that. And I mean, Alec mentioned being in Illinois, and that's absolutely a great model for this. I mean, when I was in Wisconsin, you saw a similar sort of 365 a year or a day, 365 a year organizing model that has been moved from Minnesota, where Ken Martin, who's running for DNC chair along with Ben Wickler, is like there's real opportunity here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Hate that I only have a minute because I am so excited about this. So I'm going to talk fast. So y'all just bear with me. So for training, we need to train on text banking and phone banking, door knocking and deep canvassing, volunteer recruitment and outreach, fundraising, vote builder, candidate recruitment. We do that with our staff that we hire. We do that with executive committee members who already know. We bring previous candidates in to help train. We use every resource available to us. As for the support for our county parties, look, one thing that I think needs to be changed is county party chairs sometimes do this job as a full-time job. Where there's an ability for there to be a stipend in their own county party, that's something to think about. We need to be doing joint fundraisers with our county parties so that they're raising money, not more than we are. I also think it would be interesting to see large counties pairing with smaller counties to do joint fundraisers so that like Hamilton could partner with Bradley or Meigs or Bledsoe and raise money that way. We need to take pride in our resources and we need to give those back to the people. Sorry, I love it so much.
Right,
well, I'm happy to hear you say that because this next financial question starts with you. So you will get a little more time to answer it, if you will. This next question, again, starting with you, Rachel. Discuss your financial plan and include details such as yearly fundraising goals, weekly call time commitment, and if you plan to hire a professional fundraiser.
Yes, I plan to hire a professional fundraiser. I will do no less than 20 hours of call time a week, more when necessary. And I'm pretty committed to the idea of doing fundraising while driving. So we'll call it car call time. Look, a financial plan starts by putting a strategic plan together. Then you know what money you need to raise and what needs to be earmarked for the initiatives within that plan. We need to be able to say, these are our top goals for staffing and then raise the money for that staff. We need to work with a finance committee that is staffed and that is filled with people who have experience with finance and know how to match finances to strategic plan. Look, in Hamilton County, I've raised more money in the last 3 years in Hamilton County than any chair has in 20 years. I've increased it by almost 200%, and it hasn't been easy, but it has been worth it because we spent every dollar of that on candidates and candidate support and growing our community in Hamilton County. And we need to be working with our executive director to build on that strategic plan and realize where we have deficits in our fundraising. Sorry, I want to be respectful of the time.
No worries. Thank you so much. Brian.
Yeah, so absolutely. As a former finance director, I mean, I think you have to have that second pair of eyes. It can't be on one person show. You've got to have that extra set of hands. I think, as Representative Dixie said, taking ownership of that and keeping that in-house is a critical part to that, because you can start developing new relationships, identifying new targets, identifying pockets where we haven't seen investment, and more importantly, re-engaging some of the donors that have sort of fallen off of not just the party, but our campaigns and supporting our candidates down ballot in our counties as well. So I think that's a broader phrase of this. And then as far as yearly and quarterly goals, I mean, look, I think there's a larger benchmark, but until we truly have that deep dive with somebody that is going to truly help augment what we're doing, it would just be me spitting numbers at a paper. And I don't think that that's the best way to go forward. We have to be intentional, and we have to pair it with our strategic plan as to how we're going to be in communities, in counties, and then how we're actually making the argument to our donors that it's a valuable investment. So, yeah.
Representative Dixie.
I think with the call time question, we'll start there. Call time is, I don't think you can put a cap on it. It's just going to be as needed. And sometimes you may have to exceed the 20 hours or whatever it is. So we won't put a cap on that. Fundraising is something that I'm used to. When I took over as the caucus chair, I started from ground zero. Nothing was given me, no playbook, no transition of power. It was just like, here you go. So I had to develop donors across the state of Tennessee, which hadn't been done in before. As we talked about here in the past, a lot of times we thought that the power is here in Nashville, but the power is across the state of Tennessee. So I went to East Tennessee and West Tennessee, and I have developed those donors. And as I said before, I think we do need to have a professional fundraiser. And I have talked to one that's willing to train an in-house fundraiser for about 6 to 9 months, and then they would become ours. And that way they could raise their own salary, just like we all do, and then we can move forward from there.
Todd.
Well, yes to a professional fundraiser. As far as the weekly time commitment, I'm with Vice Chair Campbell that my plan is to be driving all across the state of Tennessee, and I'm going to have lots of time in the car to be able to talk to people. If you look at, go back and look at the money that the TNDP has taken in over the last 5 or 6 cycles, I think a good comparison this cycle is going to be the 17-18 cycle, when people got 2 years of Trump and realized how terrible it was. And the numbers in there, it was about $3 million a year if you average it out. And you've got the big donor numbers, and there was a ton of donor donations, and I think that ought to be the angle, but I wouldn't want to set anything for certain now. But the other thing that I look at this with is in the last race, I'm going to save that for another time because I need to talk about that, but that's what I've got for now.
All right. Representative Johnson.
Yes, absolutely. We have to have a professional fundraiser, and I commit to at least 20 hours, even during session, in session, out of session. I've already blocked that time and made that schedule. But we've got to utilize all the tools in the toolbox. We've got to do digital fundraising, fundraisers. We've got to do snail mail. I can say that with my U.S. Senate campaign, we have a list of 67,000 new donors that I would like to bring to the party. And these are donors that got involved. Most of them are in state. There are a lot of outer state donors too that gave to our campaign because they believed in our fight. They didn't necessarily think that Tennessee was going to win a U.S. Senate race, but they wanted to see a real fight, and they will commit to our party as well. They feel like they live in blue states. They want to help a red state be successful with that fight. So I want to make sure that we are doing everything we can. We raised $7 million in that race, and I want to bring that ability to our state party because we need to raise $5 million a year at least to be a viable.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Alec.
Yeah, I believe and agree with just about everybody on here that we need a professional fundraiser, and we probably need to be, as a chair candidate, targeting anywhere from 20 to 30 hours as the bare minimum of the floor of that type of call time. Big dollar donators have essentially, and to most working class people, run the party, and so getting small dollar donations back into the party is really instrumental. I will get into some of the numbers. In 2020, we raised about 3.2 million. In 2022, it was 2.8. And in 2024, it was 6.6. And we sent $3 million out of the state, and it went towards the national party. You can't spend $3 million on national figures when we cannot elect Democrats across the state challenging in every single county. That just does not lead us to being competitive, especially when we're right behind Democratic strongholds of New York, New Jersey, Hawaii as the 4th largest state party sending money up to the national level. That is unacceptable.
John.
Yeah, we don't know what the number is. Coming into this new, of course, I would want to hire a professional fundraiser. Regarding time, you're going to spend the time that you need. I come from a career in technology sales, and kind of with very short notice, you're given a quota and you need to hit this in 3 months, 6 months, and a year. And I would approach this the same way. What resources do we need? What expenditures do we have? And how much time am I going to have to dedicate each day raising money?
All right. Thank you so much, John. We're about to come right back to you.
Okay.
Excuse me. What will you do as chair to make sure the data in Vote Builder is reliable for candidates, county parties, and will you make any changes to lower the cost for an account?
I probably can't speak in depth to that as much as maybe some of the other people on this panel. But regarding like information is accurate, we of course want to have accurate accounting of our voters, make sure all information is correct. And as I said, that's not something I really have delved into.
All right. Alec, take a swing at it. You're muted, I believe.
When you're looking at the data that's coming from county clerks and then the DNC and all of these dumps that are coming through at different points in time, certainly the quality of data, sometimes is going to vary. We are actively removing phone numbers from our voting files and trying to, get to the best way of outreach for all of these folks. And some of that looks like text messaging, some of it looks like phone banking. So, addressing that and making sure we're getting to the right people certainly matters a lot. And looking at lowering the costs for entry into getting into these types of races, whether that's municipally or statewide or anything in between. I think it comes down to getting the best group rate. As my understanding has been, and when I've worked with Act Blue directly, I've been able to secure better rates for committees by grouping everything together under one contract and then subcontracting down for each committee instead of having, you had one parent committee and everything after that kind of funneled down. We're able to get cheaper access that way.
Representative Johnson.
Yes, what I would say is the more you're working in Vote Builder, the better the data is. And so encouraging people to be doing those work, making those calls, and those calls don't matter if you don't input the data that you got from those calls. And that's one of the main ways that we clean up that data. But making sure that we're doing in an off election year, a couple of year cleanups with that data that we're supposed to do. And then in election year, maybe do it more frequently. But as long as we have our county parties working in that data, I can say that my House District 990 data is really great and really clean because I've been working in it for so many years and inputting the data back into the database. So the more we encourage all of our county parties to have folks working in that data, to be talking to folks about the grocery tax, and to be deep canvassing when it comes to healthcare and raising the wage and all those things, we're putting that data back in. And that's one of the best ways to clean it is be at work in the data.
Thank you so much. All right, Todd.
Well, first I want to put a big three exclamation marks on what Alex said about the 2024 fundraising was ridiculous. And anyway, way to bring that up. Thank you very much. And I also want to echo what Representative John just said, because I don't think Vote Builder is as bad as the reputation it has. And if you're working in it, you can make it work very well for you. And so what I guess the answer to that is, one, I don't know what the cost is. Lower it as much as we can to get it into as many hands as we can, because that's how you improve the data, is to get people in there that are capable to have the training, and then they can make that data work across the state throughout the county party system that hopefully we're building back up. It needs to be in every county, and if you're making it work in every county, that's the way you make Democrats be connected in the way that we need to messaging and all the other goals that we have.
And Todd, I'll say very quickly, we were losing your signal just a little bit, just something to be mindful of. Your answer came through pretty clear for the most part, but it was spotty just a little bit. Representative Dixie.
I think this is an opportunity for us to engage our networks and able to talk with the county parties and give them the autonomy to work on those, in that direction, because I think maybe in the past, county parties haven't been given a direction in order to clean up their data. And this is an opportunity where we have to have a really, really, really strong data And that would be a data and accounts person would be my top two things that we would do simultaneously in hiring. And we have to pay more, which means we have to get out and fundraise more, because you can't, the salaries that they're paying now are not really competitive to what we need in order to get someone in that area. And I think the area to lower the cost of the account, I think that that's going to come with collective bargaining, but I still think that everyone has to have a little skin in the game to pay for it, because that's the only way you're going to take it serious. But I also believe that we have to know how to use Vote Builder, and they have to be trained on it, because if you don't know how to use it, then it's not going to be valuable to you at all.
Brian.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there are a couple of parts here that sort of highlight the complexity that goes into running a state party and being involved in a state party. The fundraising numbers, for instance, were mentioned earlier. The complexity that goes into the compliance to move money between state parties. We are a big party, right? We have a national component to this where we actually have agreements where we are passing money between state parties, between the DNC, and that's part of the entire process. And a similar thing goes into the data. One of the hardest people working in this state right now is Wayne Shaw, our data director, and he doesn't get enough credit because this is one of the hardest jobs that you're going to have in any state party, and it's one of the most thankless jobs as well. And I applaud Representative Johnson for saying the absolute obvious point here is that when we start working with this data day in, day out, working on it consistently, taking no days off, taking no cycles off, we end up getting a better database. So there is a complexity to a lot of these processes, and something that the next chair is truly going to have to understand if we're going to do it effectively.
Rachel.
Yes, thank you, Representative Johnson. That's exactly, and all of you who are making this point. The data is difficult. We have to do the work to clean it up, but we all have to do the work to clean it up. It's every door knocked, it's every phone call made, it's every text done that cleans the data up. You have to input it when it's done. But we also need a data director or a data firm that's helping us clean that data up, making sure we have the most access to everything, making sure they're pulling it from the different parts of the data universe to make sure it's all correct. I think that is an extremely important part of this. Candidates out there knocking doors during their campaigns, they're doing the work to clean up the data for us. As for the part about the Vote Builder cost, yes, I commit to lowering and or not charging Vote Builder for the candidates that need it. It is ridiculous that we got, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, of course, that we go out and recruit candidates to run for office, then immediately say, now give us your money, even though you don't have access to the voter file. We have to make it easier for candidates to do their job, to run for office, and that means reduced or free cost for Vote Builder.
We're about to go to our next question. Some of you all kind of touched on just a little bit, but we're going to return to it. Rachel, we're coming to you first. What can the next TNDP chair do to encourage young Democrats who are politically active in the state, to stay in Tennessee instead of moving away to other states for better opportunities? And I'm going to reread that one since I stumbled a little bit.
Yes.
What can the next TNDP chair do to encourage young Democrats who are politically active to stay in Tennessee instead of moving away to other states for better opportunities? Rachel.
Well, the first thing we have to do is elect Democrats who are going to break the supermajority so the GOP will stop imposing awful legislation and laws on people that encourage our young people to want to leave. What we have to do is understand that young people want a seat at the table and they want to work at the table too. If that means that if we've got young consultants that are out here doing the job, we got to stop taking advantage of them and start paying them. That means we've got to raise money to do that job. We also have to understand, and I uniquely understand this just from my own experience with my children, one of whom is living with me, because the cost of living is too high in Tennessee. The cost of living is too high, so they can't find affordable housing. They can't pay for their groceries. We have to understand that the things that my generation dealt with when I was 20 and 21 years old are not what young people are dealing with now. And we have to meet them where they are, ask them what they can do to change, what we can do to help change their circumstance. And then we have to listen to them and then do what they're asking us to do.
Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot what the vice chair just said. Ultimately, look, there's a great cohort of young people right now who are working in this state. I was around in 2018 when we had another great cohort come through. In 2020, we saw the world sort of shut down, and I met one of my best friends through that process. And look, part of this comes back to the culture around the party that we want to see, and that means elevating and amplifying the youth that are already participating, taking the lessons from the folks that have been around the block, that have seen real power, that have seen what we can do when we actually have the majority, and then find a way to start, making sure that we are planning not just for a cycle to cycle basis. We're planning for the 5, the 10, the 20-year process, so that we have jobs on the ground, that we have an infrastructure that can be plugged into, and that we're developing the core tools and skills that are going to take these kids not just from where they are right now, but take them to wherever they want to go in the future. So,
Representative Dixie.
I think that the clear choice is we have to give them opportunity. For example, the Tennessee political director, that was my brainchild. I thought about that position. I said, we need something to do here in order to keep people involved. Not only keep them involved, but keep the candidates going. So I went out and raised the money for their salary for 2 years, because it was a very important thing. But if you keep them engaged, we learn how to fundraise as a party as a whole, teach our candidates how to fundraise so we can pay these young people to work with them. And we hook them up with a mentoring type of process. For example, my fundraiser would love to have to mentor some people that would be able to take on and do something and really become his competitor. Because there needs to be more than 2 people or 3 people that are fundraising here in Tennessee. There's a boatload of opportunity. We just have to give them the opportunity, but we also have to go raise the money so that we can pay these young people, because they're ready, willing, and they're smart enough to make it happen. Matter of fact, they're probably the ones that make the wheels go on our campaigns. We're just the face.
Todd.
Well, I mean, I guess you could start with making sure the young Democrats who want to be part of the party have the opportunity to take part in the party. And that goes back to the question of the lawsuit earlier. I don't know why we're not trying to encourage them to be a part and have voting power in the party. But second, I think, there are plenty of young people not in the big metropolitan areas and small county areas. And if you don't have a county party to associate with, you've got nothing to bring you into the party if you're in Unicoi County or Hamlin County, any of the small counties. And so I think that, the party is broken up right now, and that the rural is not supported, and there's plenty of support in the cities and the urban. And so the first thing we do to help the young Democrats also helps all Democrats, which is to build and connect and fortify the county party system.
Representative Johnson.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to bring young people in, and it's embarrassing that I was considered young when they brought me in my 40s, but they're like, we got to bring young people in. I'm like, well, maybe 8 a.m. Saturday morning at Shoney's is not the best place to meet if you want young people. And so, let's do 10 o'clock at Panera or something like that. And also, when the young people come in, don't just have them be fetch and carry. They have great leadership skills. They are so well versed on social media, all the new technology. Let them lead, because what you see, I would notice people in the party would go, oh, well, we tried that, it didn't work. Well, this young person didn't try it. And what I always said as county party chair is, that sounds like a great idea. Why don't you take that and be the lead on that? And we can get you a committee of folks that want to help you with that. But letting them lead, not just bringing them in to fetch and carry, is so important, because they have amazing skills. They may not look like the skills everyone has.
Thank you so much, Representative Johnson. I hate to cut you off, but I will say Shoney's has a mean breakfast. Okay, 8 a.m. is a little early.
I don't love that.
Gotta give respect to Shoney's breakfast. All right, Alec, you are up next.
Yeah, getting young people to stay in the state and be engaged, it does look like giving them opportunities. And fetch and carry is a great way to look at it. And I think Rep Johnson really hits the nail on the head there. We've been asked time and time again to be, the engine that drives campaigns, that drives movements and ideologies. And far too often we hear, as you get older and older and older, I did that already. I served my time. I did that, a long time ago, and I'm not doing it again. And that's the mentality of, frankly, of what drives us losing. Winners do the work. And that's something that my boss used to say to me all the time. And that's what it is. If you're afraid to do what it takes to win, then you'll always stumble yourself over and you'll lose. we have to find a way to pay these people properly, and getting fundraising up and running in a very powerful way is instrumental there. And giving them a seat at the table and listening to their voices, is another one. The 365-day organizing that Brian and a few other people have mentioned in this is instrumental in doing that. They don't feel like they're connected to the party year round.
Thank you so much. John.
Let them know it's not hopeless. It's a huge challenge, but it's also a great opportunity. And I've probably touched on this a bunch of times with the other questions. Young people are at the vanguard of my strategy. They have the technology. They know how to influence people. They're doing it all day on their phones, maybe not for political causes, but for something. So, I just think it's going to be integral. And that really also gets back to another critical problem living in Tennessee is wages. We need to pay people, need to pay them, need to pay our teachers, need to pay everybody. So I think that would go along in line with some of our other issues. But again, young people, the vanguard, I mentioned all of these innumerable, feet on the ground organizations, all that could help us.
All right. We've got literally just a couple of questions left. And John, we're about to kick this next one to you. This one's going to be fairly easy, but this is another yes or no. Yes or no, John. Does the state party do enough to support current elected Democratic officials at the state and local level? John, yes or no?
I'll say yes, but that's not my answer.
All right, Alec, yes or no?
No, I don't believe they do.
All right, Representative Johnson, yes or no?
Maybe.
No, and especially local level.
All right, Todd, yes or no?
Same thing Representative Johnson said. No, but because of the local level.
All right. Representative Dixie.
Speaking from experience, the answer would be no.
Brian.
No.
And Rachel.
Nope.
I just want to acknowledge, I love that everyone took that pause because we're not on a delayed release. We couldn't bleep anything out. So great job, everybody. I felt it in there. All right. Last question. Rachel, we are going to come to you first. Current Tennessee state law prohibits members of the General Assembly, their campaign committees, from soliciting or accepting funds during the session on behalf of the caucus, any caucus member or candidate. Likewise, the law also prohibits political campaign committees controlled by a party, a caucus, or any member from conducting fundraisers, soliciting or accepting contributions on behalf of the caucus, any member, or any candidate. Would this be a financial problem for the Tennessee Democratic Party if the chair cannot raise money during the months the legislature is in session?
Well, I mean, I think, of course, it's going to be a problem if the chair cannot raise money while the legislature is in session. But look, I'm not a legislator. I'm not an elected official. I'm not running to be chair, so I can be either of those things. And so that wouldn't be a problem for me while I was raising money. I do think that it is a murky area, and I think it opens us up to some legal concerns and some legal questions that we'll have to wrestle with if an elected official or legislator is elected chair. But I think that's a decision the executive committee is going to have to make, whether we want to enter into that sort of gambit.
All right. Thank you so much, Brian.
So again, this is an area where it is actually complex to be a party chair. I believe the actual foundation of this is that elected officials can actually raise funds towards federal opportunities, not towards necessarily state entities or state objects. So again, it takes another nuanced approach here as how integral that partnership is going to have to be with an elected official and a designee or a committee or a fundraiser. And so there are pathways to doing it, but again, it speaks to the complexity of it. And again, I'm of the opinion that we have to lean into, as much as we possibly can, all the tools that we have in our toolbox, which means leaning on our EC, which means leaning on our executive or our county parties, our elected officials, our members in the community, our partners, to make sure that we are doing everything we can to raise more funds all year round, every single cycle, not just during session or after session or whenever the case may be. So, yeah.
Representative Dixie.
So I knew this question was going to come up. So a while back, I went and asked our legal attorney at the state level for the General Assembly, and he said it is an issue, and it echoes exactly what Brian just said. This is not something new. A legislator being the state party chair. They do it in other states. It's been done here in Tennessee before. So there's truly no conflict of interest. We know how to fundraise. This is what we do. We've done this since to get here, to get to our position. So making phone calls, talking to people, making cold calls, building relationships, cultivating relationships is what we do. And so I think that this is a perfect marriage in order to be the chair. I think it's an essential asset that you have to be successful being a county chair. So I do not see it being hurtful at all in this position.
Todd.
Well, this doesn't really apply to me. I'm not a legislator, and if I'm the chair, I don't think I have any problem with the restrictions. So I'm going to pivot to the thing that I was going to try and answer before, because we're, again, talking about fundraising. And I look back at the 2024 election, and I saw that Kamala Harris raised $1.2 billion and Donald Trump raised about $480 million. And yet the billionaire now is the president-elect. He's filling his cabinet with billionaires, and the richest man in the world is shadow president. I kind of feel like Democrats across the country and in Tennessee as well, we need to go different instead of just chasing with our hat in hand towards the big donors, and our fundraising should be focused on small dollar donations. And that is the way it should go. That would be my plan. And I just feel really strongly about that.
Representative Johnson.
Yes, absolutely. I'm for all donors are important, whether you're a large donor or a small donor. And that's why I'm very proud to say that within a week of my U.S. Senate campaign, we had small dollar donations from every county in Tennessee and every state in the country. And so those small dollar donations are critical, but we have a lot of big donors that want to give as well. And we need to be maximizing that in all ways. And I can say in the state house, I probably had more donors for years per cycle than any other state house candidate in Tennessee. Mine was all about small dollar donations because I'm a teacher. And so we have got to raise during session. We can do that. We can raise into the federal PAC. I can sign. I can use emails into the federal PAC. With the state PAC, we will have people acting for us. But I've already talked to donors I have relationship who are already ready to give when I'm chair. My name doesn't have to be on it as signer, but it will be for the federal PAC.
Alec.
Yeah, I view the issue as more of one of a partisan one. Although, there may be a gray area here where we have, opportunities for our party to be able to raise these funds through some of our state legislators. I certainly worry about the way that the Republicans will continue to just weaponize their control of the state government and use that as a way to, derail our fundraising, or more importantly, disrupt our party as a whole by, challenging us there. And that's not somewhere where we can really, take any type of fight. So frankly, it concerns me. And I think anybody here and anybody a part of this call would say, their donators are not are not theirs. They're the parties, and they're part of a movement and the ideology. So, no matter who's raising funds and no matter who's the party chair, I hope and I assume that we're opening those doors for those donators to support the party as a whole, not just candidates. And at this point, a lot of our donations across the state are being directed that way, directly to candidates, and instead of supporting the party, because they do not trust us with their money.
John.
I think it just drives home the importance of really knowing all these rules. And I think going back to staffing, want to make sure that we do have a handle on these complex issues to make sure we're doing it properly. If it's going to affect fundraising, we just need to find, other ways of voting time throughout the year to make sure we hit our goals. As it pertains to fundraising, my biggest goal with fundraising is return on investment. we want to make sure that before we have our handout, that we have our message, we have our house in order. This is what the party is going to be like going forward. Todd threw out some big numbers that, money that maybe people didn't get a big return on. So we want to make sure that if people, even small donors, that they feel good about donating, as well as it's got to be super easy.
All right. Candidates, you've done all of the questions. We can breathe now a little bit, give yourselves a pat on the back. We're going to go into closing statements now, where you all can give us your elevator pitch. And of course, we really do want you all to help us understand what you bring to this position and why you are the best person for it. All of those watching, you can see we have some pretty great candidates here with pretty deep, a lot of depth here. A lot of experience and a lot of great ideas. So we're going to start with our closing arguments. You all or statements, if you will. With our closing statements here, you have 1 minute to do so. And I'm just going to toss up the order, going to scramble it up a little bit. I'm going to give Rachel and John some breathing room in here. And I'm simply just going to go on the order that is on my screen. I'm not sure if it's the same for everyone else that is watching, but I see Todd first, John second, Representative Johnson, Brian, Alec, Representative Dixie, and Rachel. All right. Again, just scrambling up the order on my screen, no particular order. 1 minute. Todd, how you want to?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be involved in this. This is a great group of Democrats to be associated with. The reason to choose me, I think, is pretty simple. I'm going to bring change. And, I say this sometimes that, it's hard. I'm pitching to a group of people to select me, and I'm going to be moving their cheese. But at the end of the day, what's worked in the Tennessee, well, it hasn't worked over the last decade. And we need to do something different. Rebuild the county party system, candidates on all the ballots, and messaging and data needs to be fixed. It's broken. And, I'm in a position, I'm not part of the establishment. I'm not beholden to any group of constituency or anything, coming in with a fresh look. And that's what I'm going to do as chair.
Thank you very much, Todd. John.
Well, not to overuse
I'm sorry,
fresh.
if I could say, let me say very quickly, if everyone could just mute their mics, please, just to be on the safe side. This is the final moment. We want to make sure everyone has their full and uninterrupted time. Obviously, once it's your turn, unmute your mic and then mute it back. John, let us start the clock freshly with you.
Yeah, certainly I want to bring a fresh perspective. I will devote full time to this position. My message has been a little bit different, maybe a bit of a centrist message. Anyone that's followed me on social media knows that I'm very strong about really not wanting to use the old tried and true ways of the door knocking and the old fashioned stuff. Really more of a modern approach. Todd had mentioned that the ground game was solid with the Harris campaign, and there was nothing to show for it. So it's really it's an idea of seeing my vision of our message, what we are doing on a daily basis. Let the other side oppose us, and this opposition has resulted in your lives not being changed for the better because of this. So again, get rid of all the name calling and all of that. Really a kinder, gentler approach to the job.
Thank you. Representative Johnson. Oh, I'm so sorry. You're still muted. Unmute. We need to hear from you.
Sorry about that. I'm excited about this opportunity about to get started. So I just want to say thank you so much, and know that starting day one, I will have a comm strategy going forward. Within 1 week, you will get a toolkit from me with talking points on what's happening, how to talk about it in your county, and mock social media posts that you can take directly, or you can modify them to be more, county specific to your county. But you all need that information. We've got it out there. I commit to that fundraising. I also commit to wall off my campaign for state house. I will not use TNDP funds for my state house campaign. I don't want any appearance of special dealing or anything like that. And so I will commit to do that all completely on my own without any TNDP funds. I'm sure I can do that. And we have precedent. There shouldn't be anyone coming after us because Beth Harwell was Republican chair and a member. So there is precedent for doing this way. I am excited to get started and can't wait to get to work.
Thank you so much. Brian.
Well, thank you to you, Harry, for hosting us. Thank you to everybody for watching. You know, look, I've been an organizer. I've been a field director. I've been a finance director. I've been a campaign manager. I've been an executive director. I've been working in this state for the past 7 years. Before that, I was working around the country for 8 years. I've worked with the DCCC. I've worked with the DSCC. I've worked with the DGA. I've worked with the DLCC. I've worked with the ASDC. I've worked with our DNC. I think the most important thing that we're going to do in this next 2 years is going to be about making sure we're building a stronger party that takes every single part of our toolkit and puts it out there for every single person to use. And that means leaning on our elected officials, leaning on our executive committee members, leaning on our county parties, and building a real infrastructure that's going to outlast a cyclical basis. I think that's the reason I'm running. I chose Tennessee to build my life here, and I want to make sure I can continue to live here and raise my girls here. And that's the reason why I want to do this job, so that we can make sure we build a better party and a better state. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Alec.
Yeah, I want this role because honestly, I look at it as an opportunity to elevate voices for people who haven't had one and haven't found the confidence or the strength to stand up as whether it's a Democrat, a progressive, or anything in between that aligns with our democratic mission. They just haven't felt that support, and they haven't felt the calling to somebody who's actually there for them. I have a good amount of political experience that I've taken to 3 different states, but I don't feel like that serves us at all to highlight it all. Right now, I'm focused on what it means to be an everyday Tennessean, what it means to be experiencing the working class plight that we are. For those of you who don't know me, obviously you've heard a lot from me today, but I chose Tennessee as a home, and I came here from a coal mining town that didn't really have a lot of opportunities either. So I look at this as a chance to rebuild what the working class sees as its future and reattach themselves to a movement that's more than just politics. It's about making sure that the everyday cost of living and the everyday outcomes that Tennesseans are seeing are the best and the brightest that they have, at their fingertips.
Thank you so much. Representative Dixie.
We're at a crossroads here in Tennessee politically. We can build or we can go backwards. So it's more important than ever that we pick the right leadership. And I'll tell you why I'm the right leadership. I took over a House caucus that was in debt, that was pretty much in disarray when I took over, and with no playbook, no transition of power. I was able to bring that party, make it relevant, and build a foundation, and then have a vision that was implemented across the state, not just only here in Nashville, where people thought it was a central place of power, but I've worked all across Tennessee, east, west, and built coalitions even throughout Tennessee, but also outside of Tennessee. So it's very important that we have the vision and we have the people who have the work ethic that's willing to put in, because you have to involve people. I'm a collaborative leader, and I know I can't do this by myself. It's going to take all of us to get it done. And I'm asking everyone to pitch in and do your part so we can change Tennessee.
All righty. Last but not least, Rachel.
Hi. I'm running for Tennessee Democratic Party chair because I believe that we need a strong and united party to fight for the values that we hold dear. And I really want to see our party organize, grow, and become more inclusive so that we can better represent the diverse voices and economic needs of our state. We have to strengthen county parties across the state, create and implement a plan for rural Tennessee, and recruit candidates at every level of government with a strong focus on local elections where we can begin building benches at county commission, school board, municipal races, city councils, etc. We have to begin working to rebuild trust with the working class part of Tennessee, and I believe strongly that I'm the right person to do that. If I'm elected chair, my priorities will be to strengthen and build all county parties across all areas of Tennessee and not just Democratic strongholds. Strengthen the party's relationship with allied groups and increase voter turnout by building a strategy to identify and activate Democrats. Sorry, it's hard. For me, the most important thing that we can do as a state party and everyone on this call can do is work together collaboratively and with teamwork, because that's the most important aspect of this job.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank all of you all so much, and thank all of you all who are watching virtually. This would not be possible without you. And obviously, the candidates feel that you are important enough because they have dedicated this time. Instead of playing in the snow, they're sitting right here answering the questions that have been put together just for you. And hopefully you have gotten the information that you needed. To all of our candidates, again, pat on the back. We thank you for taking the time and being so brave. As a reminder, the decision day or election day, January 25th at the State Executive Committee meeting is when the vote will take place. And I want to also acknowledge and give another special thank you to the Tennessee Democratic County Chair Association and the co-host for putting on this most important event. And again, for everyone watching, we hope that you have a safe and warm rest of your day. And of course, in the days ahead, everyone take care and have a good one.
Thanks,
Thank
Harriet.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.